Profile of Mr. Naval Kishore Bajaj quickly. Naval is a chartered accountant, a certified internal auditor. He comes with about 17 years of experience, professional experience, multiple industry expertise. Mr. Bajaj leads internal audit, JFOX, IFC, ERM for India region. He has been awarded as one of India's top 20 most influential audit leaders. Currently, he serves as president of Bangalore chapter of BVSS. So he'll be there soon.
I am Naval Bajaj. I have been already introduced. Um, we are going to talk about fraud indicators to look for in internal audits. And the overall theme of the program has been, there have been so many sessions, very useful sessions. I have also attended some of them. The theme is digital resilience. And fraud is a topic which we have all been discussing for ages now. It is a topic which is always a buzzword, I would say, although not a very positive thing to have such kind of things in the buzzword, but this is something which attracts attention. It impacts our lives. Hello? It impacts our lives, and this is why the understanding about internal auditors, about the current trends, or what are the latest aspects that we should always keep in mind is something that I think the organizers have planned this session for. So without wasting much time, I would like to just jump on to the expectations of the audience here. I think we have Gopal Krishna Agarwal ji, Honorable Board Member of BPCL and National Spokesperson of BJP here. Thank you, sir, for coming. Satish Shenoy ji, and there are so many other dignitaries over here. Anyone, we had some link to get your expectations, but that's not working. So, anyone who would like to share, what are your expectations of this session? Anyone who can just stand up and, anyone please raise your hands. What are your expectations of this session? What do you want to learn? Yeah, please.
As an internal auditor, we are always put into a structure or a framework, and we are expected to check certain aspects and we are expected to give certain assurances. But it seldom happens that we identify fraud. Usually identification of fraud comes out from a complaint or a whistleblower, and after it is identified, audit goes and investigates. So the topic of the session was so curious how auditors can identify fraud. So the expectation is what are the indicators that we should look for, and how do we find it? Because audit also operates in a time constraint.
Yeah, thank you very much. And this session is pretty much talking about that, so we are aligned. Anyone else? Any other expectation?
Expectation of certain case studies, maybe some instances that you noticed or you can share how you actually discovered the process.
Yeah. So we will talk about certain, we will not talk about a case study, but we are going to talk about out of certain examples of the case studies that I have seen in my own experience, how we have been, what were the gaps, because it is only 1 hour, so we can't cover more than 3 case studies, but there are some pointers which we have kept. Okay, so, yes sir.
Just to make a joke, since this session is the lunch, we expect you to finish on time.
That's a very fair expectation. Thank you so much for that. So, what are the most common frauds these days? I mean, there are frauds all around us. There have been frauds and there will be frauds. And the simple reason is that the fraudsters, I think, are the most creative people, most innovative people around us. And this is why fraud is something that no one can give a checklist about, right? So, if I claim today that, after my session, you will be able to find all frauds in your organizations, I'm sorry, I cannot say that. Same thing, if you ask me that, Naval, can you certify there is no fraud in your organization or the previous organization? I'm sorry, I cannot say that. Now, if some of you are company secretaries, you will be a little unhappy with me, because you will say we are taking a certification every quarter from all the business unit heads saying there is no fraud, and that is why my MD is signing based on those certifications, right? That's paperwork. But at the end of the day, even that paperwork says no fraud has come to my knowledge. It never says there is no fraud. We never know how creative, how innovative people have been doing something, right? And every time we have been surprised in a different way. So the bottom line which I want to say here is that fraud is a ever-changing topic. Whatever we are going to discuss today, I am going to give you some principles, some pointers, but the story doesn't stop there. Story starts there. Now let's talk about corporate frauds. I think ACFE report to nations everyone has read. So everyone knows that there are different categories of frauds. There are corruption frauds, asset misappropriation related frauds, financial reporting frauds, and some other frauds with the other stakeholders. What I have tried to do in this slide, I have tried to bifurcate them into two different colors. One is a red color, another is a normal color. And why I chose the red color? Because red are the ones where normally internal auditors are not allowed to get into. Right? How many of you agree with me? Please raise your hands. There are certain hands. Some people are honest, some people are just thinking my boss is around, I should not be picking my hand, right? Anyways, so this is a fact, because there is a conflict of interest that the executive management may have in some of these situations, not always, but there are some frauds on which if internal auditors find those frauds, management is really happy that, okay, yes, you have found some asset misappropriation, very good, you have saved some money, but the moment you tell you have done some accounting fraud, they will be a little jittery, right? That is what I wanted to say. But at the end of the day, from a regulator's point of view, from the Companies Act point of view, from the society point of view, we cannot overlook any of them. We have to cover all of them. And if we are not covering all of them, then we have to deal with it in a different way. Okay? Now, this list, the corporate flaws list, this which I showed to you, I made this in 2019. So I thought that, whether it is comprehensive now in 2023, but I thought it is not comprehensive. And, I can list down so many other frauds which are not covered in that list, although it looks comprehensive. So what are the new ones which I have learned in last, 3-4 years? False regulatory filings, This is not something new fraud, but what is happening around, what if we track the news, etc. Now these things are getting more and more caught. These things are getting caught. People are getting caught. If you file to one regulator, you will be caught with the other regulator. If you, for example, in customs, especially, so much of data analytics and so much of systems government has put in that it's my own experience I am sharing. You import one particular product at a particular price, sharing with customs that this is the arm's length price. After 6 months, you import, so some other division of your company unknowingly imports the same component or a product at a lesser price. The company gets a notice. How do they get the notice? Because they have data analytics already implemented. So what has happened in last 5 to 6 years, regulators already are ahead of us actually. There are so much data analytics that government has put in to govern it better, and therefore you will get notice even for one product, one incident. Yes, they were very fair by saying, okay, this is a mistake, you should not repeat it or something like that. We were able to prove it, but it was a happy surprise also in a way that, yeah, things are getting better. Similarly, there are news where some professionals have given wrong certificates about the Make in India component of particular product which is getting produced in India. For example, if you are bidding to the public sector especially, government has a policy to promote goods manufactured in India. So they will give a better or a better weightage or a better rating to the company who is adding more value sitting in India, rather than a company which is completely importing and just giving the tender. For that, if you are getting a preferable treatment, right? If you are getting a preferable treatment, then you better comply with the regulations. But how will government check whether you are complying with the regulations? It is us professionals, some chartered accountants, some cost accountants who have to check the records and certify that the condition which is being declared is being met. But unfortunately, for whatever reasons, there have been many incidents where government has identified that these certificates were wrongly certified. The value addition happening in India was not as per the norms, which has resulted in disciplinary cases against the professionals also, against the company also. Now, if we are internal auditors, are we really looking at these things? Traditionally, are we even looking at these things? Are we looking at the filings that are happening outside of our organizations? Is our IFC list of controls even covering these things? We have to ask a question. Some may answer yes, some of us may answer no, but this is something which is already there, already happening. GST refund claims, etc. So many notices have been sent by regulators to various companies that you have taken the refund wrongly, professionals have been arrested and all that. I'm not getting into the details. But the bottom line which I'm trying to say, these kind of news items are very less prior to 2019 in my own experience. When I do the Google, if I have to do a keyword search and do a data analytics on the keyword search, these kind of news items were lesser. Now regulatory mechanism of checking your filings, etc. is much better. So we need to cope up with this. And in my own experience, by not only my organization, but also by talking to a lot of colleagues, lot of professionals, it has been found that internal auditors have been more or less focused internally, not really checking what someone is signing, how it is getting filed. Maker checker control, yes, it will be there, but whether internal audit has actually verified or assessed the risk of wrong filing, because as per the definition of fraud, this is a fraud as per Companies Act. So this is one new thing. The other thing is forgery of electronic documents. I think the e-signatures and the digital signatures, they have not been in so much of use. Yeah, they have been in use, but the use now has really significantly increased, especially post-COVID. There are so many documents that are now getting signed purely through digital signatures or e-signatures. There is a slight bit of difference between e-signature and a digital signature. Can someone, line it out? What is the difference? Anyone? Sir, I would like to clarify here. As per amendment made to the Information Technology Act in 2009, e-signature includes digital signature. E-signature is very much valid, adopted and accepted by the law since 2009. But since we have not been using it, so who bothers? But now people are using it, and now we need to know, okay, what are the nuances, what kind of controls are required. The only difference which I perceive between digital signature is one kind of e-signature. Digital signature is one particular way in which primary key and secondary key is there, and this is being given by certifying authorities. E-signature is something like you rightly said, like you have an Adobe license, Adobe Writer, you can put a signature there using Adobe. That is also valid e-signature, but that is not digital signature, because there is no that kind of primary key and secondary key validation that is happening. Now this, okay, as a concept we understood, but as internal auditors, if tomorrow we are supposed to check that a particular contract has been signed validly or not, how will you check? whether uh, a contract which is signed digitally by one side coming to my organization and my counterparty or my authorized signatory wants to sign through wet ink or simple signatures. So what he will do, you will have to take a printout, put the wet signature, scan it and send it back. Is that valid? Even if it is valid, how will you check whether there can be a fraud risk or not? What is the risk of forgery? So these kind of things, and earlier digital signatures used in India for a very limited purpose. They were also, there were a lot of critical transactions which were not allowed, like real estate transactions were not allowed through this. Now I think recently they have made a lot of amendments and they have in the rules, and they have allowed a lot of key transactions to be made through digital signatures, through e-signatures, which puts a lot of focus on internal auditors also, how we are going to check. We need to change because the world has changed. Last, in the second bullet, Outlook emails. How many of us are using forwarded Outlook emails as a very good internal audit evidence? I think all of us? If anyone disagrees with me, please raise your hand. Please, sir, tell me. Can you be a little louder? It should be as an attachment, okay. Any other check that you make? Have we studied the vulnerabilities of Outlook being used as an audit evidence? There is a clear fraud that has been unearthed recently in another organization where I was talking to, and I would like to talk about that later, where someone did an Outlook fraud. Yeah. That is known 5 years ago. Anything else? Okay, we'll talk about it. Now, third category, cyber frauds against the company. Cyber, everyone is talking about cyber security. But from an internal audit point of view, what do we need to understand? I think the IT companies are still, much better in that sense because their IT controls, IT general controls, security controls are, ahead of other people. But manufacturing industry, and especially Chennai has a lot of manufacturing hubs, right? Manufacturing industry was a little laggard, I would say. And because their focus was always on manufacturing, their manufacturing systems were always very, very focused and quality oriented, and product will be super class. But the moment you come to support functions, controls, this was all very basic. And this is across manufacturing industry. It's not applicable to one company or others. Now what is happening is, the OT and the IT integration is happening. So what is OT? IT is information technology, OT is operation technology. So operation technology means the technology that you use to automate the plants. So definitely in all the manufacturing sectors we have processes, one step, then second step, then third step of processing, right? It's not soft, it is a different kind of a software and a different kind of a hardware, but there is an automation involved. So that is called as operation technology. What is happening now is OT and IT integration is happening based on the recent developments in the technology, AI, ML, IIoT, because different kind of devices are now you can connect, you can drive information and you can put it to a software. So therefore, everything is moving to the cloud. Earlier, your plant operation related data, whether plant is working efficiently or not, it was all available, but through the silo systems. But now everything is being connected to the cloud in the interest of faster decision making, better decision making, and management wants everything on their mobile. They don't want to depend on someone, someone sitting in the plant to call him and check, what is the efficiency ratio of today? What is the wastage of today? They'll get a report on the mobile. They used to get a report through emails. Now they don't even want that. They want to simply click and see the dashboard, which is live data. So why this is happening is because speed of decision is increasing. So internal auditors also need to understand how this speed is increasing, what are the changes happening in the processes, and identify what are the potential fraud risks. And lastly, frauds using the application coding. I mean, we are all talking about bots being used in JSOX testing. I'm always Japanese guy, you know, so I will always end up with JSOX. SOX testing, IFC, you know, so many reconciliations that are being automated using RPA. Then so many systems, data analytics systems, but they're all working at the bottom of it is an algorithm, right? But how do we check the algorithm? And if we take a stand that, okay, we are unable to check an algorithm, then there will be one day, then we will be shown a door outside the company, right? Because everything is going to be an algorithm ultimately. So what are we thinking about it? These are some thoughts I wanted to give. I can go on and on and on, but in the interest of time, I've just picked up these. So this is just a definition. I mean, I'm not going to get into it. One thing I wanted to highlight, apart from the usual definitions that are known to people, that are talked about always, section 448 specifically says if any return report certificate is filed in material particulars, not a typo error or something, but in material particulars, knowing it to be false, it's a fraud. Filing is a fraud. Whether you got a benefit or not a benefit, if you knowingly file something which is materially incorrect, it's a fraud. Now, this is again a slide which I prepared way back in 2019, where I wanted to, basically demonstrate that fraud is not an India thing. We all keep blaming ourselves that, too much of fraud is happening in India, or my country is like that. But honestly speaking, if you look at the global scenario, it is a global phenomena, everywhere it is happening. So these are some of the instances, and everywhere auditors are getting blamed, right? So they need someone to blame, and we are the weakest link. So basically what I wanted to say, regulators are questioning directors and auditors more and more. World is talking about reforms, and our key defense is exercising due professional care and diligence. Now this is what our standards say, but what is that due professional care and diligence? That cannot be possible unless and until we understand how the system works, right? So this is just a meme. Now client is feeling that, we caught them. Any thoughts so far? Otherwise, we'll get into the next section of the discussion. Yeah. Yeah, we are coming to that. Yeah. But before that, why do we fail? Let's analyze. I have put some of my thoughts, but it will be great to know your thoughts also. I have given some reasons. So one of the commonly known reasons is the nature of concealment and misrepresentation is pretty complex. So it's not so easy, so apparent, right? It's complicated. That is the way, that is the reason why we are not able to find it. If it was so easy, we'll be definitely able to find it. And lack of effective red flags integration. Because it is complex, we don't understand it, on top of it, we don't have the red flags in the mind, so we are not able to focus there, we get lost, and we pass the gate. Then fraudster is much more familiar than us, because we are kind of outsiders, right? We go there occasionally. Fraudster is working on that particular system or process on a daily basis. He knows this much better than us. So his ability to conceal it is much higher. And then there are companies, there are organizations where management will have some emotional response. Even if you find it, you pick it up with your seniors, they'll say, no, it's not like that. Our company, this guy has been working here for 30 years. What are you talking about? It's not possible. Just go and check with him only. That happens or not? If you are not concluded, of course, I mean the initial trend, go and check with him only, openly. I also tell sometimes to my juniors, you go and cross check with them. But at the back of the mind, unless and until it is a very, very important financial transaction, then I will not use that word. If it is a smaller item, it's okay. So, our sample size is too small. Currently, the standards are also prescribing a sample size which is too small, and I think they will remain like that, honestly, because the difference between the way the organizations are working, the way the systems are working, there are smaller organizations for which this sample size is still okay. There are organizations that are completely on the cloud, right? So for that, this sample size will not be okay. But I think this gap is being bridged by the audit committees. The audit committee chairman, is asking me that what is your sample size, how much you are covering, what is the level of assurance you are giving, how much confident you are about it. Rather than asking the CFO, nowadays these kind of questions are coming to internal auditors also. So the auditor's lack of familiarity and awareness of fraud is another reason, and insufficient level of professional skepticism. So I think these are all self-explanatory. I will not get deeper into it, but on the right hand side, I have tried to put some of the genuine reasons because of which, even if we try, we are unable to help. For example, scope limitation, right? If something is not allowed to be audited, what an internal auditor will do? So we will not be able to find out, right? But for that, we'll need to make sure that that kind of documentation is made available, and to safeguard ourselves that we have never audited this. Secondly, the predictability part, this is the softer part. The difference between a forensic auditor and internal auditor, me being on both the sides, some kind of experience, internal auditor by nature of the activity has to be a little more transparent, has to share the objective of the audit, has to share what I am trying to achieve, right? If you do not do that, you will never be able to complete your work within time. So you have to openly share, this is what I want. So the auditee will then help you in testing it in the right way. So that works very well, if both of you are honest. But what if the other guy is not honest, right? So I think that is the inherent risk of doing an internal audit. When you talk about forensic audit, you don't trust the other party at all. You are out to find a fraud there. So your minds, you will not be revealing everything. You will be a little more conservative in sharing information. So the lesson that I take for myself out of this discussion is that looking at the topic, looking at the transaction that I am auditing, looking at the risk profile of the transaction, I will share or not share the end objective. For example, if my team is going to check the cash, because most of the frauds ultimately end with cash, right? Then no need to explain. Okay, what you will check in bank reconciliation statement? No, sir, I am not here to explain. You simply give it to me. This is part of my scope. This is my mandate. Full stop. There are certain other process reviews where you want to do some, operational review and tell some better controls. Yeah, we can be open. So, but this should be kept at the back of our mind. This is a softer thing which is very difficult to do. And once, especially when you are in-house auditors, you develop so good relations sometimes. You trust the other person so much, and these people are also so generous to treat you so well. If you read the psychology and the profile of the general fraudsters, which keeps on coming in different surveys, they are always good to the auditors. Come, sir. They will give you all kind of facilities. They want you to roam around, see the city, enjoy, and do not focus on the work. Not that honest people don't do it. I mean, they also do it. But some of these are also red flags. If you get extraneous courtesy, please get alert, right? Then, auditors wise, as I mentioned about relationships, then last, time and the budget constraint, right? We have to finish the audit within a time. The guy is not giving the data at all. What to do? Close the audit. We'll see it next year. Does it happen or not? But if it is really a fraud risk, do not close the audit. Do not close the audit. Say or put an audit scope limitation. Put it in writing that you are not given, I am closing it in this fashion. It's very difficult, but this is more at a leadership level. I take this kind of stand sometimes that if it is not happening, I am not closing it. I will tell to the audit committee chairman also that data has not been given, then a little bit of fighting, but it's okay. It's better than, later on getting, mired with a fraud allegation than to have this kind of fights. But the major reason is not learning from the past. I'll ask the forum here, how many of us know how the wire card fraud happened and why it was not caught by EY auditors? Who has read? Anyone who knows the gap that EY had in its testing, because of which the wire card fraud happens? It's available on internet. Just Google it, you will get it. What does that say, by the way? Okay. So this is the evidence, right? No one knows what exactly was the gap. See, we all know that fraud has happened. We all know it was the biggest fraud. We all know, so much action has happened, this, that. But why they missed it? This is one live example that we have never got into the details of, why it was missed. Sometimes it is available publicly, sometimes it is not available publicly. But it's very easy to do a Google search, not immediately. When the fraud has happened, by that time it will not be clear to anyone. It will be in news, it will be on WhatsApp shared with you. You will get bogged down, every time this thing is coming, I am not reading it. But if you try to do a Google search, maybe 1.5 months later or 2 months later, and put wire card fraud explained, right? Wire card fraud explained, if you put, you will get the answer. Okay, let's talk about other fraud. Wirecard was not India fraud. Has anyone read about any other recent frauds in India? So, any other fraud? Something that happened in Bharat Pay, anyone would have read? No. Okay. We move to the next. My point is proven. We don't learn from the past with audit evidence, and it's recorded also. So guys, what are red flags? Red flags are something which is unusual, suspicious, inconsistent, and something that should raise our eyebrows. So, okay, what is it all about? Now we already spoke about in brief, what are the points which I am going to talk about. So I'll straight away jump to the individual red flags. Let's talk about the red flags related to regulatory filings. If you find that there are weak internal controls around any kind of regulatory filings, certificates, declarations that the organization is giving, for me, this is the first red flag, because the gate itself is not there. There is no gatekeeper. People might be giving any kind of certificate, any kind of filings. You being unaware, your organization will later on can be held responsible for, as I mentioned, fraud. The second red flag in my experience is, if there are already, because we are all part of the organization, and usually through the tea conversations we'll come to know there is some issue going on in some process. No one will tell us the exact thing, but people will give us a hint, right, sir? What do you think, sir? Satish, sir? So we'll come to know something is going somewhere, some smoke will be there. So if that smoke we are knowing, which need reporting by law, if it is something related to regulatory thing, that is a red flag for me. we must go and cross check what are the internal controls that are there existing to manage that process. If we don't do that, after 6 months it will come to haunt us only, because what you were doing, processes, you have done this process audit, nothing has come out, and all that will come. So the moment that smoke is there, try to find where the fire is. You can't go and talk to the individuals, but at least we can check our own controls. Controls are with us. We all know our working papers. We all know processes, policies are all with us. We can always do that, but we need to be proactive rather than keeping a closed eye on this. Thirdly, if you find that people are debating or fighting with each other on who should sign this regulatory filing, then you also know there is a problem. Because someone doesn't want to sign means some problem, right? This is a red flag. So try to get into those controls, try to get into, what could it be? And if there is a visible financial gains possibility for an organization, sometimes there will be some kind of a talk. And this is all, conversational. This is, you'll never get in emails. Someone will be talking to other guy, if we do like this, it is favorable in such and such manner for the organization. He is not talking about the organization. He is talking about meeting his own KPI and getting a better variable pay. But our life will get screwed later on, right? So these are the red flags. Keep your eyes and ears open. I always tell to all the auditors, it's very difficult to practice. Talk less, listen more, absorb more, talk less. Don't share more about internal audit function, what we do, how we do. No need. Try to understand what others are doing. That is how you will be able to absorb, and that is how you will be able to find something. And this is all available. This is all available in the organization. No rocket science. So what are the controls? Internal controls I already mentioned. And for these filing, etc., there should be a list. And for against that list, there should be some RACI metrics, some responsibility, accountability kind of a metrics. Who is doing what? So that tomorrow something goes wrong, at least we can say that, we recommended a good internal control. After that also you are doing something, we cannot do anything. But as long as checks and balances are there, even senior management will also be protected. Talking about the, sir was asking about, sir, baki sab chodo, outlook ka batao kya hai, right? So we are on that now. Can an Outlook email be added? Yeah, many ways. But without forwarding also. We are all aware that an Outlook email, while forwarding, I can delete the contents, I can change the attachments, I can put the new attachment, we are all aware about that. Without forwarding, can I edit it? And it will look the same, with same timestamp. Everything same, only the attachment has changed. I have done it myself. I am the evidence, okay? Look at this email. This is a normal email. There is an Excel sheet attachment. This is, I don't know why it's not working. Look at the date stamp on the right hand side. 3rd March, 6 o'clock. Contents, everything. This is the original. I have just taken a screenshot of it. Look at the date stamp. Look at the contents. I have attached one more attachment. And that attachment is this, today's conference PPT. Now, third thing, further edited. I have removed the original attachment. And I am telling you, this is possible within your Outlook, Office 360, without forwarding. This email right now is in my laptop, showing in my inbox with this attachment and not the original attachment. So the day the internal auditor will come, I will give this attachment, Just imagine if we are checking the approvals, management approvals of budget approval or something based on email, he will simply go and change the attachment. We'll never be able to find out. Any questions? If I tell you, then fraudsters will also come to know. Yeah, I'm coming to that. See, honestly, is there a great solution to it? The answer is no, but we can only use some safeguards. You know, for example, when I have to talk about a financial, like budgets, or when I have to talk about any particular agreement or which directly impacts a vendor or a channel partner, where kickback, fraud risk, that kind of situation is more probable, I may not rely only on the email. I will also take some more corroborative evidences to cross check. Maybe I'll call the other person that, okay, whether you have sent this email, this is the budget number or not, this is the file or not. So how this example is my example, but what has happened actually in one of the companies is that there is a channel partner arrangement, which is a dealer and OEM and dealer kind of a relationship. Channel partner is slightly different from there. Channel partners were allowed to have additional discount provided that they tell that end customer is asking for that discount, and there is a actual order that has been received. Now the process was a little faulty. The process said that channel partner will take that order, share it with the company. Based on that order, we will pass on the additional discount. Or so this is trust basis. So this guy, what this guy was doing, this guy was making a wrong attachment, a fabricated or a forged attachment, and showing that, okay, this email, this order has come from the customer, so pass on the additional discount, and then taking some money. So when the investigation happened, because there was a whistleblower complaint, investigation happened, then ultimately when this guy was asked how you did it, then he is the one who explained that this is how I was doing it. So just imagine, we all have been using Outlook for decade, right? More than a decade. Have we ever tried to analyze whether I can edit an Outlook? No, na. But this guy is creative, innovative, using it in the wrong way. But he has understood. He would have done a Google how to do it. I also did a Google later on, how to edit an Outlook, and you will also get it. It is very simple. So we need to be aware about how these things are. When it is normal internal approvals, etc., it's okay. But when it comes to external parties, wherever there could be a potential risks, it is always advisable to take a corroborative evidence. Best solution will be to have all this through IT systems. Nowadays, most of the companies are having IT systems where vendors will submit their bids, right? Where partners should also submit their bids through the IT system. So this risk is already taken care. But then it can't be put everywhere. So as internal auditors, if we have this at the back of our mind, it should raise some red flag if you feel that something is wrong, right? That was my objective of bringing this here. Now, you asked about what I can do about it. I cannot change. We'll have to call Bill Gates to change Outlook. But what we can do is we can change our way of working. Any other points on this? Otherwise, I'll move to the next one. Yeah. No. What I'm saying is, in the transaction which you are checking, if it is a high risk transaction, if it is a financial transaction, then we should go one step ahead. If it is a low risk, it is okay to rely on this one. That is what I'm saying. Yeah. Oh. Not an easy answer. I agree with you. I think the answer lies, from your BFSI point of view, the answer lies in having an IT system, you know, to plug this gap. I actually did a very detailed research on how we can find the history. Is there a trail available? Yes, trail is available. The moment I did it, a timestamp was generated, and there is a modified history in the Outlook which you can get. But the challenge with that part is, that kind of history gets generated even if you simply move from inbox to another folder, no? It will get generated at that time also. So there are so many genuinely moved emails from your inbox to subfolder that you can't really. We'll have to think. I'll sit with you, man. Huh? So we are going back. So we change the theme of the conference. See, the whole world is moving towards digital approvals. I am saying e-signature, digital signature. So that is definitely not a solution. This is a very recent thing. Maybe Outlook will plug this. We don't know. But this is a risk which I am highlighted, and we need a, yes, sir.
Outlook, when you send a mail, there is a facility of not transferring, or not able to copy, or not able to.
Once you mark it as a confidential thing, yeah.
And not able to archive also. Can that act as a compensatory control?
We'll try. I have not tried it in that fashion, that if someone has marked me an email saying these controls, whether I am able to edit it or not. I think that could work, but then we will have to put it on all the emails, right?
All important emails.
Yeah. Yeah, that cannot be printed also, actually. Very tough. Yes, this is a forgery risk, yeah. Right. Yes, yes, yes. Correct. This is not on PST, sir. This is cloud.
So I think one of the ways in the Office 365 cloud era, there will be enough trails available on modification changes to get the log. I mean, it will require some work to be done.
No, that is what I am saying. That in this log gets generated that you have modified the email. But the same kind of log gets generated even if you move from inbox to the subfolder. That is the issue. So there are too many good things also. So now we will move to the next one. With your permission, thank you. Yes, if we start using digital signature for approval, yes, but we'll talk about them in the next slide. So, digital signatures, as I was mentioning earlier also, so I will now simply talk about what are the red flags for digital signatures. For me, the first red flag is always that internal control is not there. If we do not have an SOP in the company which explains clearly how the digital signature access will be given, how it will be removed when a person moves out or when the role changes, what are the agencies from which we will take the digital signature, although there are very set list of certifying authorities from which we can take it, government authorized authorities. But still, it's better to just limit them to 1 or 2, because if everyone starts doing with everyone, different kind of documentation, KYC form, etc. are available, and then it will create chaos. So it's better to limit to 1 or 2 which are selected by you, because it's not the certifying authority which directly deals with you. It is their further franchisee or the agents. So you need to deal with those agents and then define it that what are the selected ones, what are the guidelines to keep the DSC and e-signatures secure and protected. What are those guidelines? It should be there in your SOP that if you are having a USB dongle, where you should keep it, where you should not keep it. Yesterday I was talking to someone, a practicing chartered accountant. She was sharing that she went to a company secretary's office. This company secretary is having a big box, and this box is having a DSC of say 50 of his clients in one of those box, and he doesn't even know which DSC belongs to which client, right? So now she was sharing with us that based on this issue, now MCA had to create a change in the portal. The moment the DSC is put inside, the portal is asking you which client you want to do. So if this is a situation of our understanding about DSC, which is a legal sign, which is kept in a box by a professional, then we can imagine what is the situation where so many people in sales team are using digital signatures to put bids to the government, right? So we need to have guidelines around it, especially the sales people. They don't really understand. They have this timeline pressure all the time. They have to submit it on time, right? So where they will keep it, how they will keep it, these guidelines, they have to be made aware. So if this is not there, get it done. Now, what are the documents which are allowed? Now, law has allowed a lot of documents which can be signed digitally, but looking at the risk appetite of each company, each organization, business, looking at every aspect of it, it is the legal department along with other key stakeholders who should discuss and decide what is it that they can sign digitally and what is it that they are not allowed to sign digitally. Even if they are signed, they can be signed as per law. It is not necessary that we will also allow. So look at that aspect. That should be covered in your SOP. Then there are companies, most of the companies, they will disable the USB, right? But if you have to use a DSC, especially the class 2 or class 3, if you have to use that dongle, then USB has to be activated. So what are the risks associated with that? So these number of people should be identified, and some controls, and there are controls available, IT controls are available, where any kind of movement of data from there to the dongle and vice versa gets logged, and then they should also be made aware that this is getting tracked. So it's not that you can do anything. Then guidance on how to check whether the other party has signed properly or not. As I was mentioning initially also, that if the other person has signed digitally, or reverse, if I have signed with a wet ink, the other person signs it digitally, sends some attachment back to me, how do I know it is his managing director or not? So for that also, there is no specific thing, but some specific guidelines are available which these service providers will give you. We have also taken those services. So they will give this kind of a guidance, and you incorporate that, you make people aware about that, and that is how you will be able to reduce the risk. As ma'am rightly mentioned, if someone is doing the forgery, it is very hard to identify that, but at least the controls should be there so that we do our job properly at least. I'll tell you about forgery. One more example comes to my mind. I have done an investigation personally where it's a very leading automobile organization where the approval documents used to be physical. That was not digital. It is few years ago. The physical document has some signatures down below, initiator, preparer, then approver 1, 2, 3, and then some signatures on the top. which are the most senior people of the organization. So there are around 10 people, signing the same procurement document, which is a vendor selection document or a rate negotiation document of, 100 crores, 200 crores, big amounts. Now, what this guy had done was, he scanned the whole thing, and he didn't even have Adobe Writer that time. He scanned the whole thing, he put it in the Word, then he took a printout of it. Later on, he went to the photocopier, put a paper on this. He just kept he took the colored photocopy, top and the bottom. So now he has all the approvals for whatever content he has to write. And he used it for at least 10 different such approvals. Now you will ask how we found it. It was, I think it's a good thing to say, it was found by internal auditors. It was found by internal auditors. It was not found by whistleblower. How it was found? Because when the internal auditors were going through these documents, they saw everything is same, almost everything is same, right? They got suspicious. And when it was coming to the internal auditors, it was coming as a black and white copy, not as a colored copy. Still they found something. They did not stop there. They went a little further. How you are making sure that all your manual approval documents are controlled? There was a gap. There was a process in the company, proper process in the company. There was a secretary who was giving a number to each of these approval documents. These 4 documents were not part of that tracker. So it was clearly proven that this is a forgery, and then the forensic investigation started. So very interesting. Now, I was talking about usage of DSC, misuse of DSC. So this is a news item very, last year, where police actually has arrested someone who has done a fraud of 27.61 crore using digital signatures, misusing digital signatures. How it was done? Because this is related to the licenses that you get. Whatever you are exporting, you will get some reverse licenses, so you will get some benefit. So it is in the name of the company. So these guys were forging the documents to get the digital signature in the name of the MD of the complainant company, and then they were able to pass on all these assets of the company in the records of the authority to their own shell company or fake company, and then they misused it. So this was found after many years, not many years, but many months, when the company wanted to avail this benefit. Then they came to know this benefit has already been availed. Then they get into the investigation, they filed a complaint and all that. But the lesson for internal auditors, do we even look at these kind of assets? We don't, honestly, we don't. Traditionally, we have never been looking into these kind of assets. This is also an asset of the company, right? This is there in the balance sheet. This sits in the balance sheet. But we will ask for the tracker from the auditee. What are the licenses? And the story ends there, right? We never get into how safe these assets are, how you are sure that what is the last time when you have checked this with the authority? Have you really looked at the website? You are showing me this tracker. Have you looked at the website? So these kind of things, if they are at the back of our mind, we will be able to track and we will be able to crack also sometimes. Now, I'll take you to a different dimension now. I was talking about OT and IT integration, right? So industrial automation to industrial autonomy is a trademark of my company, Yokogawa, where basically what we are trying to say is companies like ours, we were doing an automation. Now we have to do autonomy, which is a little higher. Basically, whatever I explained, that things will come on the cloud and on the mobile. Decision making will be faster. So now what is happening in the manufacturing sector, and why I am focusing manufacturing, again in the interest of repeating, I am saying the controls in manufacturing around digital space have been traditionally on the lower side. So now that things are getting digital so fast, internal auditors also need to know that things are changing, so we also need to change. So let us first understand, before getting into the red flags, let us first understand what is happening around. So this is, a slide which I have taken from one of my company slides. So just in the interest of explanation, what are the challenges that the customers are facing? Customers are facing challenge. They have the data, but they're not able to, put everything together and make a good decision, right? Then there is a business challenge about what is plant visibility. Too many scattered silo systems are there. If you see in the middle, the solution part of it, you see small boxes. These are all different IT systems, different IT or OT systems where a very critical key information is lying in the plant. Now what is happening is all of this is getting moved to the cloud using the IIoT, using the AI ML and those kind of technologies, and everything will be business driven, data analytics driven. Earlier they were in silos. Like we used to joke then when I used to work for an automobile company, at that time, a ransomware attack had happened in Europe in one of the premium OEMs, and the factory was shut down. So we used to joke we are safe because our factory system was not at all connected to outside world. Blessing in disguise. But no longer, right? If everyone is moving into this space, everyone's, if your competition is getting into this space, fast decision making, everything, you will have to move to that direction. If you have to move to that direction, definitely we need to understand what is happening, and that is how we will be able to know what are the fraud risks. So this is what key message I wanted to give. So what kind of information, like carbon emission map, all this, earlier it used to be at one place. But now considering the new situations, it has to come to the mobile, so it is prone to the cyber frauds. Similarly, this kind of information about the equipment of the chiller, module building, this is all, why I pulled this example, because this is also related to ESG, the new thing, GHG, ESG. So everyone is doing this, right? So what are the vulnerabilities? Cyber vulnerabilities are not being analyzed. This is one red flag, right? If we are not analyzing it continuously, if it is just one audit, 3 years, not done, it's a red flag. Go do more basically. Risk of application controls modification which go unnoticed. Accounting systems, if there are bots in your company which are interacting with different silo systems to move the data to your SAP, then yeah, they are very good from an efficiency point of view, but how much controlled is the environment where the code of that bot is kept? Normally, they will be lying in some simple desktop or some small server because they are not really critical. Perception is that, okay, they are not generating any data, they are just passing the data from one place to another. But they can actually change the data in SAP. So, they are important controls. Strong contractual protection if it is missing in your cloud contracts, especially if personal data related data is being shared, and if you do not have proper clauses, we will have GDPR related clauses, but we may not have the clauses related to Indian laws. But when it comes to Indian laws, Indian regulators are going to ask about Indian laws, not GDPR, right? So we need to make sure that we are aware about Indian laws and they are there in the contracts. If they are not there, it's a red flag, which can result in a fraud later on, because see, personal data leakage is also termed as a fraud. That is why I am saying. So what are the solutions? Solution is having a security operations center, because all this, in the interest of time, I am not going deeper into it, but these are the list of all the cyber security trends. Now the first one is very interesting, like your car can be opened, like everyone knows it, like I think, because your car can be opened by anyone without opening, without cracking anything. They will just hack your key and then you're done. Then mobile is the target. State-sponsored cyber warfare is something, China is attacking US company, US attacking China, they are attacking our servers. All that is happening, and that is happening with all of the companies. So we need to be aware about this and find out, Now, last but not the least, bread and butter, accounting frauds. I have given some examples, some red flags which are required to be analyzed by internal auditors. And these are the examples which I have seen which we do not generally analyze. You know, there are so much of bigger list of it, but I strongly believe that internal auditors should analyze these data points. We must have an analysis of 10 years. At least 10-year data should be put in a chart. We should try to analyze how the things are going, what is the correlation between these factors, and then we will be able to find out if there are any aberrations. We know there is a potential fraud that is happening, and then we do the next audit procedure. These are some of the other ones, but my advice basically about the solutions, what we need to do, we need to analyze the trial balance and the financial ratios regularly. It is not only the job of statutory auditor to simply analyze the financial ratios and tell us whether the company is going concern or not. It is our job also. We should also analyze. We should also analyze what is the trend of last 10 years and sorry, comparison with competition, whether public information or private information. I would strongly suggest that there are certain key parameters available from the competition side also, which should be analyzed. And last but not the least, if we can develop some checklist for the culture review and the tone at the top reviews, those things are also very important in covering this kind of risks, which are generally driven by the management side of it. So trust, maturity and upskilling is the key, and we simply need to keep learning. I think today we learned some things, tomorrow there could be something new. We need to keep learning, and as I mentioned at the start, we need to, whenever we come to know about a fraud, we must try to find out how it was missed by the auditing fraternity. What is it that we could do about it? That is my key message. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Naval. It was really thought-provoking and insightful. You gave us a lot of food for thought, and thanks for coming all the way and kind of doing this session. I think this is a whole day session. I mean, it cannot be covered in one day. I think it's a very interesting session. We'll call you again for a one whole day. I think we need to do a lot of discussion to and fro, and it's very interesting and it was insightful. Yesterday I was talking to one of the independent directors. He was asking one very pertinent question. He was asking, why not internal auditors take up a forensic anti-fraud control and do a proper audit of that, very focused around anti-fraud? And why don't you do that? You always mix it up with the rest of the internal audit controls. Why don't you just do forensic audit as an anti-fraud? Just take those controls and do it. Okay. I mean, very insightful, conversation that we have been having in the last 2 days. And so thanks for you.
Can I make a point on that?
Yeah,
so the comment that is coming, there is a basic difference between a fraud risk assessment and an internal audit that we do, right? Fraud risk assessment will start with fraud scenarios. You will first need to analyze the entire process and then see what is the potential fraud scenario only. So then you are not talking about operating effectiveness, business objectives, risk management, nothing. You are only talking about fraud. So you are not talking about this bottle being able to be moved from here to here, which is also a problem, but it is not a fraud. But you are only talking about a scenario where this bottle can be taken out from the room without checks and balances, and what are the scenarios around it. So to answer the independent director, he needs to simply ask for a fraud risk assessment in his company, but that will never be done as part of a normal internal audit engagement as per se based on the standards that we have. If that is the expectation, then we need to talk about the, changing the standards, etc.
No, the expectations are quite frequently changing because they are directors in 10 other companies. And the minute they see a fraud in one company, they come and say, what's happening here?
Yes.
Right? How are you really assessing? How are you giving that comfort to us that nothing is going wrong here? And there are milliards of, as you said, the DSCs of the world. It's always lying in some chartered accountants, The DSC is either with the company secretary or with the CA who is actually signing now and then. So the MD's DSC is never with him, right? I mean, it's all, so today it's so difficult to kind of, the pipe is so long and with so many holes that if you try to fix one, the other one is leaking,
yes.
right? So that's how it is. So thanks a lot, participants, and the food is out there. Thanks for your patience, and we took about 10 minutes, more, but then I'm sure it was really good. Naval, thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank
Bye.
you very much.
Yeah, may I just request Ram Kumar sir to come and present a memento? Thank you.